Hi, this is Susan Snyder, principal of the North Hampton School, with an update about our plans for return to instruction for the 2021 school year. In developing our plans, we relied heavily on the Return to School Task Force at SAU 21. They provided a great deal of guidance for us and utilized information from the CDC, the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services, and our professional staff. As you can see, we use the guiding principles of safety, equity, wellness, and teaching and learning. We also relied heavily on our Northampton values. Last year, we identified the following acronym, PRIDE, to represent values and attributes that we wish to see in our students. Pride represents perseverance, responsibility, integrity, doing the right thing, and empathy. And during these challenging times, all of these things are so important for our students and for our staff. As you can see, going back to the guiding principles, in terms of safety, we considered class size and space available. In terms of equity, we considered the needs of students at each developmental level, the technology access and special education services available. We considered the wellness of all of our students. And for teaching and learning, we considered the needs for in-person instruction for our youngest students. As you're aware, our plans for the 2020 school year at the beginning are to have pre-K through grade 5 with in-person instruction at the building. We will have restrictions and a modified schedule, or parents have the choice of the SAU 21 Remote Learning Academy at those grades. In grades 6 through 8, our staff will provide enriched virtual learning. For pre-K for K to 5 rather, we've opted for a pod structure. That means that each class represents a cohort. For example, one first grade class is a cohort of about 12 students. Each grade level represents a pod. So in our case, 1N, 1G, 1B. And each pod is staffed with a combination of classroom teachers, EAs, special education staff, and possibly other support teachers from UA classes or other areas of the school. Staff in a pod will cover for one another if there's an absence. In considering how we operate each day, we have a need to shorten the school day. So our school hours for grades K to 5 will be 8:25 to 1:25. Lunch will be served in the classrooms. We have scheduled recess times by class so as to not mix cohorts. Students and staff are expected to wear masks indoors, and then if they go outdoors, they may take their mask off if they stay 6 feet apart. We'll also plan mask breaks as the weather gets a little cooler, if that happens. Arrival and dismissal procedures will involve the use of specific doors. So each grade will be assigned a door, and 6-foot distancing will be requested and utilized. We may need to use additional spaces in the building. We'll pay close attention to the integrity of our cohorts and grade level pods. Our UA schedule has been modified, and UA classes will Zoom in once per day for 30 minutes. We also have identified an isolation space in the nurse's office for students who may become ill during the day. In terms of facilities, as you can see, we have enhanced cleaning protocols and schedules during the day and night. We've purchased some sanitizing foggers. Our bubblers will have the drinking capacity locked, but the bottle filling capacity is still available. We've identified one-way hallways and stairwells where possible, and where it wasn't possible, we divided the hallway with markers. You can see a picture in the next slide. Each grade level is assigned to one specific bathroom and one specific entry and exit door. Desks are spaced 6 feet apart in the classrooms, and the rugs have been removed. You can see a photo here of one of the plexiglass dividers that will be used for small group instruction in the classroom. We've ordered tents and plan to utilize outdoor space whenever possible for learning. And we've also ordered some internet access points for the outdoors so that the internet could be accessed from the tents, and each student will be assigned a device. Here you can see some photos of a sample room setup with the desk space 6 feet apart, and this is a hallway in the middle section where we weren't able to have it be one way because it was a dead-end hallway, and you can see the dividing line in the middle and the arrows on either side. We also have enhanced health procedures. There'll be a self-screening app that all staff and students are required to fill in each day in order to be in the building. We plan to utilize Pickup Patrol for this feature, and information will be conveyed to you before school starts. The nurses will all be following the same symptom flow chart and the same procedures should we encounter students or staff who have symptoms or may become ill. Students who are sent home with symptoms must stay out of school for 10 school days or submit a negative COVID-19 test result. Students and staff will provide their own cloth face masks, but our nurse's office will have extras if that's needed. We don't plan to use substitute teachers. We plan to utilize our own staff members within a pod to fill in if that's needed. And as I said before, our UA classes will be zoomed in so that each class has one 30-minute period per day. And the nurse, as I said, will have procedures for exposure and procedures for reporting cases and suspected cases to the Health and Human Service Department for tracking. In grades 6 to 8, we utilized the same guiding principles in our plans. We came to the conclusion that we didn't have adequate class sizes or space available to safely have our students in the school. So we considered equity and our ability to access technology, wellness, and teaching and learning in making this decision. So you're probably wondering what would be different from last year's crisis remote teaching and this year's enriched virtual learning. We've tried to spell this out for you so that you can see that we learned a lot last year. For starters, each student will have a daily schedule for core classes and one UA class per day. Student attendance and adherence to class norms is expected. One of the things that we really need to expect this time around is that students have their cameras on and they actively participate in each class. There will be daily synchronous lessons coupled with some asynchronous learning as well. Some of the lessons will be whole class and some will involve small group and breakout rooms on Zoom. We have the ability to distribute materials and collect materials back on a regular basis in this model. And there'll be opportunities at the end of the day for virtual enrichment clubs and activities. Here you can see a sample middle school schedule. 2 days a week, it would start with an advisory, that's small group, social, emotional, and organizational connections, followed by a 10-minute movement break, a 40-minute ELA class, another 10-minute movement break, a 40-minute science class, a 30-minute snack time and break, then a UA class. In this case, it would be art for 40 minutes, followed by a lunch break. Then after lunch, a 40-minute social studies class, a 10-minute movement break, and a 40-minute math class. So the core instruction would end at 1:45 each day, and we plan to have offerings between 1:45 and 2:45 for intervention and enrichment opportunities. Here you can see some sample lesson designs for our enriched virtual learning. In example 1, you'd see that the class would start with a 5-minute connection activity, followed by some direct instruction of about 15 minutes, and then 5 minutes of small group or supported practice, 3 minutes of a debrief, and then 10 minutes of independent practice with teacher check-ins, followed by a closing activity. So we wouldn't really expect our teachers, if they were in school in person, to stand and lecture our middle school students for 40 minutes, and we don't expect that during virtual learning either. Example 2, you can see something that might be more typical of an English class, where the first 10 minutes would consist of an opening activity and a debrief following that. Then 12 minutes of independent reading, where students would stay in the Zoom, but maybe be allowed to turn their camera off to read if they chose. Come back 12 minutes later for small group discussions, and then a synthesis activity at the end. Again, these are just examples. We also know that we need to pay close attention to social emotional learning and building community in a remote environment. So we've scheduled small group advisory meetings 2 times per week with a focus on social emotional learning and organization. We plan to offer orientation small groups outdoors during the week of September 8th so that each student would come for a short, probably about an hour and a half, to pick up their materials and meet their teachers and make some connections outdoors under the tent, which we're hoping to have put up soon. We will make sure that there's a focus on classroom community and meeting students' social and emotional needs. Health and SEL classes will be part of our UA rotation and integrated into core classes. And lastly, I wanted to just say a few words about technology and food service. If you've elected to take advantage of our meal program, meals will be available for pickup as in past months. I'm not sure yet exactly where the pickup locations will be. It's possible that there could be a location right in Northampton, but we'll send that information out to families. Each student will receive their own Northampton School laptop or device for learning. Technology support's available through Northampton School, and we plan to use the defined platforms that we used last year, such as Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Zoom. Parents and students will continue to have access to PowerSchool to monitor students' learning progression. So I thank you for your attention. Please look forward to more information that will be coming out soon, and we look forward to seeing our students either in person or via Zoom or Google Meet beginning on September 8th.